legislature and passed a budget, you signed it, that included lots of creative, quote, ways. The intent of State Question 640, just a simple yes or no. Do you think the creative, calling taxes, fees, and everything, follows the intent of State Question 640? Yes or no?
Yes. There are legal opinions on both sides.
No, I'm not talking legal, I'm talking intent.
I said, well, yes. Yes, I do. So there are legal opinions on both sides that believe that the intent was met. There already is one challenge, as you know, so we will find out in the Supreme Court. But in talking to various attorneys, the AG, other people, they do believe that the intent was met. And looking at past case history.
But not what the people want. What I'm talking about is the intent, the will of the people. Do you think that's being circumvented by legal loopholes?
I think the intent of the people is that we get a budget done and that we fund our core services, and that's what the legislature did. Yes, sir.
Jeff from Evening News and Eagle. Governor, you expressed frustration at several issues that were left on unresolved, basically holdover issues. What different tactics will you use, or how will you change your approach, do things differently, try to achieve some long-term success on issues such as teacher pay, criminal justice reform, and budget structural issues?
Well, Jeff, I think just continuing to talk to the people of Oklahoma, to talk to their legislators. We have 149 legislators at the Capitol, and it's difficult to bring them together. One of the biggest challenges we had this year was we had somewhere around 45 new legislators that were freshmen trying to get their feet on the ground and understand all the complexity of the state budget, all the issues, and hearing from all the different agencies, and you have all the lobbyists at the Capitol, and then you have constituents at home that are talking about issues, and we had a great freshman class, by the way, but it does take a while to get to understand how the budgets work, the intricacies of the various agencies, how federal law, state law interact, and I mean, it's just pretty complex. But I hope that the legislators will continue to stay engaged. And one of the things we saw this year, and I know a lot of people thought that there was too much lack of transparency at the Capitol, but on the Appropriations Committee itself, they have the whole Senate on the Appropriations Committee, not just a small group of people. The Speaker had different big committee meetings with various agents, with all the agencies, the core agencies, on the floor of the House of Representatives, invited all the members. And so there was a lot of interaction between the agencies, the members, but in the end, the challenge became that within the caucuses themselves and the House and the Senate, the Republicans couldn't get their members to agree within the caucuses on how to balance the budget, what type of revenue were we going to have. And then you had the Democrat Party that was walking up on votes and making it very challenging to even get a budget done. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Brian Blanchett with the Tri-County Herald. You mentioned the legislative action led to revenue from wind energy in this last session. As you look at the shortfall for next year, would you support either or both undoing the personal income tax credit and the reduction in the gross production tax as a way of increasing that?
Are you asking me if I would support raising the income tax?
Yes, back to the level it was before the cuts of recent years, personal income tax.
No. No, I wouldn't. You know, one of our biggest challenges in our state, and I mentioned this to our legislature this year, is that when we have so much online shopping in our state, and then you have 150 different items that are exempt from sales tax to begin with, and then you have things that never existed to be included in that sales tax from when we passed our sales tax code in 1933. You got a structural imbalance within your budgeting system because you have a dwindling base of sales tax. And that's why I suggested to the legislature that they should look at broadening the base, hopefully being able to reduce the sales tax amount from the 4.5%, maybe being able to reduce that out as you broaden the base. Because as we continue to use more internet services and shop more online, especially with out-of-state companies don't have a home base here, we're going to continue to lose that revenue. And we anticipate that we lose $300 to $400 million a year, and it's hard to predict because we can't track something that doesn't come in. So there's structurally a lot of problems within the system itself. Now, the gross production tax, there was a lot of debate about what should the relevant amount be, and has the oil industry recovered yet? You still got $45 barrel of oil compared to the 100 and something we used to have. And we still don't have the amount of activity yet, because if we had the activity in our state, we'd be seeing the revenue, right? So we had vigorous debate this year about what should the rate of gross production tax be. You might remember back in 2015, the gross production tax rate that was set by previous governors at 1% and renewed at least once, was set to expire and go to 7 on new production from 1 to 48 months. Kind of complicated stuff. And in 2015, we changed that to double it from 1 to 2, and we cut the time period down to 36 months. And then anything after 36 months is at 7%. So we did make that adjustment once already. This year, Representative Inman and his delegation wanted to take gross production on new wells to 5% and on currently producing wells to 7%, which it is. And there was a lot of negotiation between the House, the Senate, me, the Democrat Party on those particular issues. At one point, it came down to the offer on the table was to go from 2 to 4 on new wells gross production, which is substantial because we've already gone from 1 to 2, then to 4, so really from 1 to 4 basically the last couple of years. In our industry that's not quite there and recovering on new production, and then you still have the old wells at 7%. That deal could not be done with Scott Inman because he wanted just 5. That was it, just 5. So what ended up happening in the end was that we were able to get agreement within the Republicans, because you couldn't count on the Democrats to vote for raising gross production tax unless they got that amount when negotiated. That the amount was taken from wells that are still in the 1% category to jump it up clear to 4, which was, I think it was somewhere right around 6,000 wells in the state of Oklahoma. And actually brought in $92 million, we'll bring in $92 million, which is a bigger amount than what we were looking at. So anyway, that's a little bit of background history of what happened in all the negotiations on gross production. As I told the legislators, look, on any of these issues with revenue, next year is a gubernatorial election year, and all the statewide elected officials, you're going to have all the new freshmen running for re-election. You'll have all the House and half of the Senate, and good luck if you think they're going to deal with some of these hard issues and fix some of these issues that we need to fix. But unfortunately, it just wasn't agreement within the various bodies. Yes, sir.
David Fritzy with Oklahoma Watch. Do you think that challenge will be the same in passing any of the criminal justice reform measures that we already passed this year?
That we had this year?
Yeah, next year you'll be in an election year. Do you think it's going to be harder?
Well, actually, I told Representative Biggs and others who are working on criminal justice reform, they kept telling me, we'll try it next year. I said, no, do it this year. And we're in a budget crisis. We know our prison population is going up. We know our expenses are going up. We know we're on the verge of being in trouble with the federal government. We need to act now. And there have been a tremendous amount of work done by a large group, diverse group of people involved in criminal justice reform and the public by passing 680 and 681, the two state questions year before on criminal justice reform, said in a large amount that they support criminal justice reform. They must be smart on crime, but tough on those who are violent. So several members said, well, we just can't do it. There were a couple of people holding things up don't quite understand why, just personal preference, I guess. And they only passed 3, which is very disappointing. But I will keep pushing, and I think the public will keep pushing, and those who are involved in criminal justice true reform. And this is an ongoing effort nationally. We're not unique to this. There were other states like Kentucky and Louisiana and Texas, and I'm trying to remember all the various states, but there are a lot of states involved in criminal justice reform. Georgia's in it. Dale?
Yes, Dale with the Oklahoman. Are we going to expect to have to have a discussion about new prisons next year, or is there going to be, since we're at capacity and it's just expected to go up, are we going to talk to another state about sending some prisoners there? I mean, there's still a year until any new legislation can go into effect. That's a long time and a lot of time for people to get into prison. So what's next?
Well, we do have a lot of challenges ahead of us, and as I said earlier, we're at 109% capacity already. Anyone that's from the McAllister area and seen the McAllister prison or Granite knows that those prisons are very, very old. Some of them not even being used. So we have a lot of challenges within the systems. I don't know yet. I mean, we just finished session. We just know the results of that. We're working with Director Albaugh. He has certainly done a great job of telling us exactly where we're at and where we need to be. One of the things we are doing is working with mental health, trying to see if there's ways that we can certainly triage people coming into the system, finding out what the true need is, what the true issue is, and their behavior, and hopefully being able to work with our successful programs like Remerge and Women in Recovery, those with private sector entities. And we do have a new partnership that I negotiated with some of the Women in Recovery programs to be able to send those women into that system versus going into a prison if they're willing to do those systems and to get the GED, job training, substance abuse, detox that they need. Yes, sir.
On your mind, we're going to push your community content. As we're talking about criminal justice reform, what are the things to implement STEM programs in education in the criminal justice?
Are there plans to put in STEM education, vocational training? Yes, we should do that. We absolutely should do that. But the problem is when you're putting people that are inmates because you're overcrowded into a classroom, into a substance abuse area of the prison cell, into a gymnasium, and you're sleeping, or I should say exercise room, not a gymnasium, but exercise room per se for the inmates, and you're putting those people in there to sleep because you're so overcrowded, it's hard to offer those kinds of programs. But absolutely the best result that you get is if you help them finish their GED, get their treatment, and also to get some type of vocational training, because they will, most of them will come out at some point in time out of the corrections facilities. Now, teen ministry is a great program. I've been there many times and watched how they train people, help them get back on their feet, find housing, get employment skills. There are great public-private partnerships also in that area that we need to do with it. Yes, sir.
Matt Van from the Chronicles of Manatee County. We talk about education, primary and that sort of thing. We ever talk about secondary education in colleges. In 2012, there were 250,000 Oklahomans enrolled in our colleges and universities. As of last year, that number was down to 220,000. At the same time, the state budget, the legislature, that has cut funding, 36 million this year, 100 something last year. What does it say for your legacy that we're losing students and it's becoming harder for students and their families to afford college?
Well, of course, it's because of many reasons. I mean, college debt, student loan debt, the cost of going to college, the years it takes to go to college. I mean, when I was going to college, my parents said 4 years and that's it. A lot of our children, a couple of our children have stayed more than 4 years, 5 years. And the longer you go, the more debt you incur, the higher costs of college. It's hard for students to be able to afford college or stay in college. There's a dropout rate, so that affects some of those numbers that you're mentioning too. But that's one of the reasons why a couple of years ago, we launched a program called Complete College America, which would encourage more students to look at college, whether it's a 2-year degree or 4-year degree, or even go into our career vocational schools. And we launched that many years ago. We actually exceeded the numbers that we wanted to have on the enrollment itself, completion-wise. It actually had gone up. And then the other programs we've been working on is a program called Oklahoma Works, which is actually bringing together our education institutions, our career techs, our colleges, universities, along with the business community to make sure we're offering the right job skills so those people can actually find a job once they finish that vocational training or the 2-year, 4-year degree. Those programs are working. Granted, the legislature has chosen to cut higher education, as you said, and that is a big challenge, especially when we have students in college. But there are colleges in our state. We actually have a graph of this, and Robbie's in here. We showed it today, Oklahoma last year. But there are colleges in our state that have student growth, and there are colleges in our state that have severe loss of students that are going. And that's one of the questions we're going to ask ourselves as a state. What's the appropriate amount of higher education learning centers? What can we afford? What's the right amount of colleges, universities? Are we spreading too thin? Are we not? And how do we make sure we're funding higher education the way we need to? Complicated stuff, as you can tell. David, am I finished?
I think we're about ready.
All right. Well, I'll give it to the congressman now.
Okay.
All right.